$0.2 million during 2023. And at the end of the year, there was $22.8 million in fund balance. Now, this is broken up into a couple different categories. It's not all available to spend. There's about $144,000 in inventory, so that's considered non-spendable. There's $350,000 committed for development. There's about $1.7 million that is earmarked for the next fiscal year's budget, which left about $20.6 million of unassigned fund balance. So if we put this in perspective, this is about 46% of the 2024 budgeted expenditures, and the city has a policy to have at least 25%. So very strong position there in the general fund to meet any needs that are needed. I'm not going to go through in detail all of the other funds that are included here, but I will call your attention to, there's one column labeled non-major governmental funds. And this is a combination of 13 of the smaller special revenue funds and then the cemetery permanent fund. So these are found on pages 67 to 70 of your financial statements, but in total, those funds increased fund balance by about $1.7 million. Ending fund balance for all of those funds combined is about $5 million. On the next page is a summary of the enterprise or business type funds of the city. So this is your sewer utility, water utility, transit, parking, boat, and recycling, as well as the internal service funds, which are the motor vehicle, data processing, health insurance, workers' comp, and general liability. So the sewer utility increased their net position in 2023 of about $3 million, up to about $22.2 million. Once again, all of this is not available net position to spend. There's a calculation that is called net invested in capital assets, which is basically the capital assets that you have net of the related debt. So there's about $6.7 million there. About $4.9 million of restricted fund balance, and about $10.5 million of unrestricted fund balance in the sewer utility. When we look at the water utility, net position increase of about $5.9 million up to $63.3 million. At the end of the day, the unrestricted portion of the water utility is about $4.8 million. And then looking at the transit net position decreased by about $373,000, down to $10 million. Of this, the unrestricted portion is about $3.2 million. The final page of the handout that I have is a summary of the long-term obligations of the city. So if you wanted to look at detailed information about this, I'd point you to pages 38 to 43 in the financial statements. But we have the governmental activities broken out from the business type activities. And if we look down this list, the biggest bucket is the general obligation bonds and notes in both the governmental and business type. There's also other liabilities, including leases, subscriptions, some mortgage notes. Both of these categories increased from prior year based on the needs of the city during the year, but the city has a debt limit of about $210 million when we look in total of what can be borrowed. And so there's a capacity to borrow more if need be. It's a fairly significant number that you have left to borrow, but it is there. I have my contact information as well as Wendy Unger, who is the principal on this engagement. I'd be happy to answer any questions now, or else you could contact me or Wendy at those contact informations.
Sounds good. Thanks, Michelle. Any questions from alders? Alder Bellinger.
Thank you for this. This is very helpful. I met with Caitlin before this meeting going over some budgetary questions, and these are some of the questions that I hadn't gotten a chance to get to that are presented, so I appreciate that, so thank you. My question is the unmodified opinion. How often is that given? Is that fairly frequently, or is it is it not as regular, or, what, if you could just give me some kind of sense of what kind of opinion that is?
Yep. So an unmodified opinion is what you want from your auditors. We do not issue a lot of non-unmodified opinions because we typically will work with you to get your financial statements where you need to be, whether it's a lot of journal entries and a lot of work to get there. We could issue a qualified opinion or a modified opinion if we couldn't get on the same page as, say, the city and say, we don't agree with your numbers. But that's not the goal of anyone's audit. So I would say an unmodified opinion is 98% of the time what you will get, or what anyone would get. And that's what you want.
Thank you. And I'd just like to call out the city administrator and Caitlin for doing a good job on this, so thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes.
All right, thank you, Alder Bellinger. Anyone else wishing to speak? All right, seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
City Clerk, anyone for public forum this evening?
Just one person, Jim Van Akron.
All right. Then Jim, you got 5 minutes, but if you can please state your name, address, and the items you wish to address.
My name is Jim Van Akron. I live at 432 Lincoln Avenue. I'm here to comment on items 19, 25, 40, and 41 on your agenda and how they relate to sustainability. But first I want to remind you what the City Council has committed to regarding sustainability. On March 21st of 2022, the Council reorganized and reestablished the Sustainable Sheboygan Task Force. It was a unanimous decision of all the alderpersons present, including 4 who remain on the Council. The task force members, all citizens, were approved by the Common Council and summoned by the Mayor in November of 2022. Each Common Council since has reapproved the composition of the Council. I agreed to serve on the task force as the resolution passed in March 2022 indicated the Council believed that increased citizen participation benefits the whole community by creating a positive environment, and I emphasize this, of shared responsibility and collaboration. The Council further stated that climate change impacts our city and the city needs to do its part to combat climate change. And it also stated it's in the public interest that sustainability guides city's policy now and in the future. When you look at items 19, 25, and 40, it is clear the recommendations to the Council by the City Administration do not embrace what the Council said it believes. I've sent you all an email outlining what is lacking in these requests. To highlight, the City continues to focus on the purchase of gasoline or petroleum diesel vehicles, but for the one hybrid squad car requested by the Police Department. There are more sustainable options available to the city, as I indicated in my email to you. The 2025-2029 Capital Improvement Plan is a 20th century plan that does not meet our 21st century sustainability needs. One item in the plan, the re-roofing of the Municipal Service Building in 2025, illustrates this. Previous year's capital improvement plans had a solar array that was set to be installed in 2025, which makes sense once the new roof is in place. The city administrator has now removed it from the plan. If the solar array is installed, 30% of this project would be reimbursed by the federal government, and the electrical cost savings would pay for the project in about 10 years, with another 10 to 15 years of cost-free electricity for the city. Solar is the 21st century. Relying on the Edgewater coal-fired power plant is the 20th century. Item 41 illustrates one of the few collaborative efforts by the city administration with the Sustainable Sheboygan Task Force. The task force assisted the city forester in writing the grant that was awarded to the city in the amount of $175,000. Tim Bull, the city forester, told me the city probably would not have received the grant but for the citizens' participation of the Sustainable Sheboygan Task Force and the Roots program. In addition, the task force provided information which highlighted our air quality problems in Sheboygan. The grant needed to address environmentally disadvantaged areas of the city, so this information was helpful in getting the grant. With the exception of Tim Bull, the city administration does not seem to want to engage with the task force. If you, as a council, truly believe in sustainability and the statements made in forming the task force, you will question the administration on its recommendations and ask it to come back with more sustainable recommendations after consulting with the Sustainable Sheboygan Task Force. This can only come from you, the council. The task force efforts to be involved almost always go unanswered. As long as I have a few more moments, I want to direct your attention to item 40 on your agenda, the marina development. There's a lot of sustainability issues with this plan, but I want to highlight one, the ice ribbon, which isn't really ice. The reason we can't have ice in Sheboygan is because our average winter temperature, or an ice skating rink with real ice, is our average winter temperature has increased by 5 degrees in the last 50 years. Climate change, due to greenhouse gases, is responsible for this. It is subtle. You may not have noticed it. The irony is we are proposing a plastic ice skating ribbon. The production of plastic, which is a petroleum-based product, produces more greenhouse gases. I hope you see this irony and do the right thing. Thank you.
All right. Just a few announcements then on my end. I know the city clerk and her team have been hard at work getting ready for the upcoming November election. And just a reminder to folks that in-person early voting starts tomorrow, generally during normal during normal business hours, and check out the city's website for more information on early voting and the hours for the next couple days. Planning and Development will also be holding their landlord training program on November 7th. Folks are interested, please contact City Planning by this Friday to get your name on the list as well. Just an item of note that will be on our agenda today is the Marina Plan, and I know the Marina Plan has gotten a lot of attention, a lot of citizen participation over the last few months, and I appreciate all the city staff that have worked diligently on this, as well as the input from the community members, as well as city council members as well. Just to reiterate that this is just a high-level plan. This plan that will be discussed later today does not appropriate or guarantee any spending of city dollars on any of the projects that are proposed in this plan as well. The city's working diligently with many other partners as well to look at grants and other funding opportunities to help support the future of our waterfront as well. So just a note on that one as well. Otherwise, that concludes my comments for this evening. We'll jump into the consent agenda. Alder Decker, items 9 through 21.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to receive and file all ROs, receive all RCs, and adopt all resolutions and ordinances.
Second. Moved and seconded. Any discussion on consent agenda? Alder Heidemann.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 18, I request that I'd like to make a motion to send that back to committee.
Second. All right, there's been a motion second to send item 18 back to the Licensing, Hearing, and Public Safety Committee. Any further discussion?
Okay, again, we had some discussion at the committee meeting on it. We want to look at that ordinance again. And again, I don't think it's right to deny a license that basically the description within the ordinance, there might have to be a change or something like that in there, and then this gentleman would be able to get that license. But I just would like to take another look at it. Thank you.
Thanks, Alder Heidemann. Alder Peterson?
I'll just echo Alder Heidemann here. I'm also on that committee and aware of this situation. And I think that, you know, potentially we could maybe do something with our ordinance to make this a feasible option for Mr. Menzer.
Thank you. Seeing no more discussion, all those in favor of sending item 18 back to committee, state aye.
Aye.
Any objections? All right, we're back at the main consent agenda. Alder Decker.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make a change to item 14, make an amendment to it.
All right, please state your motion.
I move to change the dance floor fee from $150 to $75.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on this item or this amendment?
I guess I just make the reason. I guess it was just it was a clerical error that it was put in there at that point. That's why it's being changed.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the amendment? Seeing no further discussion on the amendment, all those in favor of accepting the amendment, state aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? All right, the amendment is approved. Now we'll go back to item 14, or excuse me, we'll go back to the consent agenda with the items amended. Any further discussion on any of the consent agenda items? Seeing none, all those in, this is a roll call vote.
Thank you.
Yes, she said.
Alder Shelby?
Is she on, Scott?
Just do 7 ayes again.
Yeah, that's fine. Let's keep going.
7 ayes.
All right, that's approved. All right, reports of officers, item 22 through 26 will be referred to their respective committee. Resolutions, items 27 through 34 will be sent to their respective committees. All right, now, reports of committees. Okay, bear with us here. All right, item 35, RC number 124-2425 by the Finance and Personnel Committee, to whom was referred resolution number 83-2425 by Alderpersons Mitchell and Prella, authorizing a contract between the City of Sheboygan and Tyler Technologies for purchase and implementation of enterprise permitting and licensing authorization on amendment to the 2024 budget. Alder Mitchell.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to receive the RC and adopt the resolution.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on this item? Alder Bellinger.
Could I get an explanation of exactly how this impacts us and what departments are going to be using it? And it seems like an expensive software program. I think it's like $270,000, I believe. And I think if you could tell me what the ongoing license, the annual fee would be to this as well. So I don't oppose it. I just want to have a clarification for myself and for the public so we can understand this better. So thank you.
Finance Director.
Sure, thank you. First, I would like to start with the funding question. So the total amount is the $269,000, which is the upfront cost. It includes $190,000 of implementation cost. So moving forward, it's about $78,000 a year. Several departments are going to be using this software, including parks for potential special event permits, but also the planning division and building inspections are going to use it significantly, and I will defer to Diane in a moment to explain the use for there, but also DPW for certain permits through the engineering office are going to be using this software as well.
Thank you.
Dan?
Yeah, so to add on to Caitlin's comments, our department will be heavy users of this. Right now, a lot of our processes are very manual. And so, for instance, right now, every permit is keyed in by staff. So this will interface with our website where people can apply for a permit online, and so staff won't have to rekey that. Currently, we have no ability to take any applications other than basically at our window. It will also allow us to process electronic credit card payments, which we cannot do right now. And then there'll be a tremendous amount of efficiencies in the field for our inspectors. They'll be able to, for instance, take a picture of a violation or of a issue at question, and immediately it'll be uploaded into the system. Currently, staff have to take a picture, download it to their computer, upload it to Munis. So it will help us tremendously in efficiencies. And finally, I will say one of the things that we really struggle with is our enforcement process and staying on top of all of that. So this system will automate that whole enforcement process. So at any given time, we'll know, as well as the client or customer, where things are at with any permit.
Thank you for that. I appreciate the explanation.
Any other discussion on this item? All right, seeing no more, this is a roll call vote.
Do you want me to call her out for each one?
Just keep going.
7 ayes.
All right, that's approved. Item 36, RC number 125-2425 by the Finance and Personnel Committee, to whom was referred resolution number 892425 by Alderpersons Mitchell and Prella, adopting certain changes to the city's medical benefit plan and dental benefit plan effective for calendar year 2025 coverage, and establish the monthly premium rates effective January 2025 coverage. Alder Mitchell.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to receive the RC and adopt the resolution.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on this item? All right, seeing none, this is a roll call vote.
Seven ayes.
That's approved. R37, RC number 1262425 by Finance and Personnel Committee, to whom was referred Resolution 912425 by Alderpersons Mitchell and Prella, authorizing an amendment of the 2024 budget reflecting a table of operation changes for the Police Department and Information Technology Department. Alder Mitchell.
Move to receive the RC and adopt the resolution.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on this item? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote.
Seven ayes.
All right, that's approved. Next, RC number 1272425 by the Finance and Personnel Committee, to whom was referred Resolution 972425 by Alderpersons Mitchell and Prella, authorizing into pre-development agreement with 3 Amigos Apartments. Alder Mitchell.
Move to receive the RC and adopt the resolution.
Second.
Thank you. This is a roll call vote.
Alder Felde.
Try it again.
Alder Felde.
Let's keep going.
Seven ayes.
That's approved. 39, RC number 1292425 by the Finance and Personnel Committee, to whom was referred Resolution number 802425 by Alderpersons Mitchell and Prella, approving the Financial Policy Handbook. Alder Mitchell.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to receive the RC and adopt the resolution.
Thank you. It's moved and seconded. Any discussion on this item? Alder Mitchell.
I would move to amend Exhibit A within the Purchasing and Contracts Guide as follows. Add 10, liquor liability. If the services rendered involve providing alcohol for consumption by others, liquor liability insurance must be carried with a limit of $1 million per occurrence.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the amendment? All those in favor of accepting the amendment, state aye.
Aye.
Any objections? All right, back to the main motion as amended. Any further discussion on this item? Seeing no more discussion, all those in favor of approving the item as amended, this will be a roll call vote.
Try again. Alder Felde.
Oh, she just got home.
Seven ayes.
That's approved. Item 40, RC number 1302425 by the Public Works Committee, to whom was referred Resolution number 952425 by Alders Decker and Ramey, adopting a Sheboygan waterfront and marina plan. Alder Decker.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to receive the RC and adopt the resolution.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion on this item. Alder Decker.
I just want to say, as has been stated before, this is, you know, we're not spending $77 million. This is a concept of a plan. This is we need to put this out there so that we can apply for grants to move forward. I look forward to, if you look at one of the next things that comes up is a purchaser where we're looking at a design for a bridge. That was a concept too, and we had to put that concept in there in order to be able to apply for grants to get it. Now that one took quite a few years. Hopefully some of these things don't take quite as long as what that did, but that's how this is going to work. We're going to move some of the stuff forward slowly. This is going to, all these things are going to be vetted. There's certain things that are on this plan that are going to absolutely be changed. I can tell you for a fact that we are not going to be, at least if I have any say on it, we are not going to be adopting floating buildings for the marina, because I think that's totally inappropriate. But this is, I think this is a good idea. It's a good start, and we need to do something to get this rolling. And this is how we get this. We apply for this funding.
Thanks, Alder Dicker. Any other comments on this item? Alder Mitchell.
Thank you, Mayor. I concur wholeheartedly on the floating buildings. $77 million is obviously a absolute non-starter for this project. There were two main problems that caused us to start this conversation in the first place. The marina not bringing in enough revenue each year that would to cover its operations and its debt payments. So we were already upside down in marina operations. And then the fact that right now it is in a state where the existing infrastructure is in need of some pretty serious repairs. Once that conversation started, because the initial price tag on those repairs was rather eye-opening, I think it was somewhere around 13 million. We also identified some opportunities so we could utilize that space better, make the most of it, and also increase the opportunities for members of the community who are not boaters to enjoy the area. I understand the plan as a concept, but looking at it, it seems those interesting opportunities were very much what was focused on, and there was almost no focus on the original plans that we had, which is the fact that financially something needs to be done to keep the marina operating. I know we have to put a plan forward. I question what the value of a plan that we all can sit up here and admit is never going to happen is going to be. It seems to me that the plan that we put forward should actually be the guide for the decisions that we are making in the future. All for having some ambitious items in that plan, but it at least needs to have a relationship with reality. So I will not be supporting this tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Mitchell. Alder Heidemann.
Yes, again, we come back to the question of whether or not we're going to have a marina, how much money we're going to spend on a marina. I compliment the organization that came back and gave us this report. But again, $77 million is a non-starter. We have to determine as a council and a city what we want down there and how much we want to spend on the marina itself, because that was the initial, I guess, reason we went into this, and all of a sudden we said, well, we need to get a plan. Well, we got a plan. We got a plan back. Quite honestly, though it really looks nice, it's way, way too expensive. And until we decide as a community and a council that we want a marina that's a functional marina for our city, and we need to know how much money we want to spend on it, I think that's where we need to start, and that's where we need to get back to.
Thanks, Alder Heidemann. Any further comments on this item? Alder Mitchell?
One quick follow-up. I forgot the question I was going to ask. Was there a survey for residents that closed just last week for this?
City Administrator?
Yes, the survey was specifically just getting feedback on the plan, the final plan that was presented. So this plan was basically a master plan of the river or the lakefront area kind of into the river. This is essentially providing council with how the public would like to use that. That's why we had a public session instead of us proposing things. This is a plan that comes out of how the public would like to use that area. So ultimately, we'll look at individual pieces of this as we move forward, and then we'll look at bringing proposals that are kind of using this as the basis of what gets presented, and then ultimately council will make a decision on what they actually want to move forward with as opposed to kind of what's in this master plan now. But we do ultimately need a master plan of conceptually how we want the riverfront to look, or the lakefront to look, because without that we won't be able to go after state funding or federal grants or even private grants.
completely understand that. It just would very much be my preference that that master plan is closer to what we envision it all looking like in, let's say, 10 years. Alder Decker already took floating buildings away from me, so I can't now say it and repeat it, but that was one item that stuck out to me. Thank you.
Thanks, Alder Mitchell. Anyone else? Seeing none, this will be a roll call vote.
Alder Feldy?
Five ayes, 2 noes.
All right, that's approved. Next, item 41, RC number 135-2425 by Public Works Committee, to whom was referred direct referral, resolution number 102-2425 by Alders Decker and Ramey, authorizing the purchasing agent to issue purchase orders for 3 nurseries for the purchase of street trees for the 2025 street tree planting program for the city of Sheboygan. Alder Decker.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to receive the RC and adopt the resolution.
Second.
Moved in second. Discussion on this item. Alder Bellinger.
Thank you. I would just like to make a comment. In my district, Tim Bull and his crew were putting in trees last week, and to see the process, it was quite amazing and quite efficient how quickly they were able to plant all these trees. I mean, it seemed like there were, in the hundreds of trees that they planted on the north side, and it was fantastic to see and how quickly they got it done and how efficient it was. So I would just like to give them kudos for doing a great job, and I think this is a great program, and just to retain our status as being a tree city, I think it's fantastic.
Thanks, Alder Bellinger. Other comments? Seeing none, this will be a roll call vote.
Seven ayes.
That's approved. 42, RC number 134-2425 by Public Works Committee, to whom was referred direct referral 101-2425 by Alders Decker and Ramey, authorizing the purchase agent to issue a purchase order for the abatement of asbestos from the accessory structure of the property located at 1211 North 23rd Street to proceed demolition of the structure. Alder Decker.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to receive the RC and adopt the resolution.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion on this item? All right, seeing none, this is a roll call vote.
Seven ayes.
That's approved. Next, item 43, RC number 136-2425 by the Public Works Committee, to whom was referred direct referral resolution 124-25 by Alders Decker and Ramey, authorizing the appropriate city officials to amend the agreement between the City of Sheboygan and Gouling Waste Demolition LLC for the demolition of the structures located at 1211 North 23rd Street. Alder Decker.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to receive the RC and adopt the resolution.
Second.
Moved in second. Discussion on this item. Seeing none, this is a roll call vote.
Seven ayes.
That's approved. Next, item 44, RC number 137-2425 by the Public Works Committee, to whom was referred resolution number 99-2425 by Alderpersons Decker and Ramey, authorizing the appropriate city officials to enter into a contract with HDR Engineering for the design and movable pedestrian bridge connecting the South Pier Promenade with the area of the Riverfront Drive and Virginia Avenue. Alder Decker.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to receive the RC and adopt the resolution.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion on this item? Alder Mitchell.
Thank you, Mayor. Obviously, I have to once again weigh in on the bridge. We were told when this conversation picked back up again last year that there would be opportunities for council to review where the project is and what we anticipate it looking like as we continue into the future. based on how it's gone so far. And that any of those opportunities would serve as checks where council can decide to ultimately end the project if it no longer seems like the cost or the scope of it are consistent with what we were envisioning. In my opinion, this being the first real one of those checks, it is also effectively the last one. This is $1.5 million, give or take, plus reimbursable expenses. I didn't see an estimate for that. I may have missed it. And about 2 years of engineering work. And I do not see any council that after 2 years of engineering and over $1.5 million spent, that is going to pull the plug on it at that point. It would be my strong preference that we, if not move on from the idea of the project, at least pause to consider for another year or two so that we can see how that TID actually grows, what type of revenues it has to pay back this debt. We have other projects in that same TID as well. This one seems a bit superfluous on top of them at this time. Thank you.
Thanks, Alder Mitchell. Administrator Bradley.
Sorry. I can provide some background on the grant side of it. So the grant is a federal raise grant that has to be expended by 2028. So this keeps us on track for expending that. This contract is for design and construction. So a portion of that contract would not necessarily be, is that correct, Kevin? Design and construction services for the engineer, just design?
This is just design.
So this is just design. So that's taking it all the way through full design. So as we're kind of working through with the fire station, we've got a couple different stages of design. So this would be taking it all the way through bid documents. So this is, bid documents are the most expensive part of design. So you would theoretically have the ability to stop the project in schematic if you felt that the conceptual designs were too expensive or not something that was fitting for the city. And then we do have the city's match is in TID 21. Realistically, we'd be looking at probably 27, 28, 29 before we'd really be looking at significant taking on of debt, things like that. So we're pretty confident with the projects that we have moving forward that they will be well underway. And a substantial portion of the ones that we're approving now or in the next month or two will be completed by that. So we're pretty comfortable moving forward and making a recommendation to move forward at this point.
Thanks, Administrator. Alder Bellinger.
Thank you. I was going to ask the city administrator to go through the funding mechanism for this, but he did that, so thank you for that. Share some of the concerns that have already been expressed as far as the cost on this and the need for something like this. However, I'm intrigued by it as well. And what intrigues me is what we come up with for the marina plan. And again, I have some concerns with that too, with the dollar amount on that and what's eventually going to come to fruition with that. But if we plan right and we do develop the marina the way it should be done, and if we have an exciting opportunity on the Armory site, I just think that whole area can really be a boon for the city, and I think, it would be kind of a unique attraction, and we are kind of a tourist destination with everything that we have going on here, so I think it would be very unique, and so I'm cautiously optimistic that we're going to have something that is going to, work out and be within budget. So I'm going to, at this point, support it.
Thank you, Alder Bellinger. Alder Decker.
Yes, I concur with Alder Bellinger on a lot of those items. I mean, what I feel we all received letters from many of the businesses along both sides of the river. All of them are in favor of this. They all would like to see this happen. This is, this would be a boon to them. This is to help them thrive also. We want to keep them thriving. And this also will, I believe, help some of the empty vacant lots that are along the river to become more attractive to outside places. So I think this is going to be a win for us, and I think that this is going to help spur, like I said, the development of the Armory property and some of the others. So thank you.
Thanks, Alder Decker. Alder Lefebvre.
Yes, well, I got a question. I'm basically pretty much liking the idea of that walkway, but I had contact with the charter fishing captains and the charter fishing businesses that are in that area. Do they have any concerns about obstruction of their trafficking in and out to their moorings? Can somebody answer that question?
Yeah, I guess I'll take that one. Generally, the answer is yes. We do have a lot of charter fishermen in the marina as well as in the riverfront. Have we talked to all of them? No. Have we talked to some of them? Yes. I think their general feedback is just please keep us in the loop as we move forward with the project as well, and we plan on doing that.
That answers my question. Thank you.
Yep. Alder Peterson.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I echo what Alder Bellinger has said. When I thought about this initially, to be honest, I wasn't in favor of this bridge, and I looked at it from the standpoint of the boaters. And this contract, though, does have different potential bridge designs that potentially would at least work with the boaters. Some of them are potentially high enough that the boats could still get through underneath the bridge. One question I had for the city administrator was, I'm assuming this grant is approximately $5 million. I don't know exactly the amount of the grant. That's question number one. And then the second part is if we start this process and we're going down to spending $1.4 million for these plans, if this does not come to fruition, that money then is lost, then I'm assuming, and the money that we've expended up to that point comes from the city then. It's not paid for by the grant.
City Administrator?
Yes. That would be correct. If we expended the funds and then didn't move forward with the project, ultimately, we would not get reimbursed on the federal grant. The federal grant is $5.3 million to be expended by 2028. So, as I explained earlier, we could stop at different phases of design. So, as you pointed out, there's the potential that there might be multiple options that are conceptually designed and then ultimately vetted through the public. So kind of how we've handled the D-Land Park and Fulton Park, where we bring the public in and get their input to try best identify a project that the public would like to see most and bring that back for further consideration by council. Once that is picked, they're moving forward is kind of the most expensive part, and that's where you're getting into specific design specs where they're basically spelling out every intricate piece of the entire project from building it to constructing it.
Do you have a follow-up? Yep.
So, yeah, I will say I'm in favor of this. I think, we owe it to the city at least to look at these plans and see if there's something that's viable that the city likes. This has been in the books for, I think, up to maybe 20 years. It's been here for a long time. I know at least since the South Pier has been kind of under development, and this was something that they've already, they wanted back at that point in time. So I feel like it's worth supporting with the caveat that hopefully we can come up with a design plan that works for all people, including the boaters.
Thanks, Alder Peterson. All right, any final thoughts? All right, seeing none, this is a roll call vote.
Six ayes, 1 no.
That's approved. Items 45 through 49 will be referred to their respective committees. Alder Decker.
Thank Mr. Mayor, I move to adjourn.
Second. All those in favor of adjourning, state aye.
Aye.
All right, 6:53, we're adjourned.
call the Committee of the Whole meeting to order. We'll start out with roll call.
Alderperson Bellinger. Here. Alderperson Decker.
Here.
Alderperson Heidemann. Here. Alderperson LaFave. Here. Alderperson Mitchell. Here. Alderperson Perella.
Excused.
Alderperson Peterson. Here. Alderperson Ramey. Here. Alderperson Rust.
Excused.
There are 7 present.
Okay, we'll start out with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Alrighty, I would be looking for a motion to approve the minutes from the September 9th Committee of the Whole meeting.
So, second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion on those minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The chair votes aye. Those are approved. Okay, is there anyone for public forum?
No one has signed up.
Okay, great. Then we'll move on to number 5. Resolution number 93-2425 by Alderpersons Mitchell and Perella establishing the 2025 budget appropriations and the 2024 tax levy for use during the calendar year. Do we have anyone that has any discussion on this, on the Alder Mitchell?
Thank you, Chair. I would move to adopt the resolution.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion on those? Is this, go ahead, Alder Mitchell.
Thank you, Chair. I move to amend the 2025 proposed transit budget for replacement motors in the 2010 heavy-duty fixed route buses to increase the expected useful life via the following account increases. Therefore, number 651-352-562-110 by 100,000. 651-433-200 by 50,000. 651-435-370 by 6,600. 651-433-310 by 43,400.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the amendment to the budget? All in favor? Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Oh, sorry.
No problem. I just wanted to inform the council why that amendment was requested. It was requested by Director Mank from Transit. There are several buses from 2010 that are still running on their original motors, luckily, and we have the opportunity to buy rebuilt motors to get another 2 to 3 years of useful life out of those buses. So the request is using CARES Act dollars that Transit still has available to them, and then also some state funding. So it's not going to hit the local share at all, but it will be funded through federal dollars. Thank you.
Thank you, Caitlin. Any other discussion on this, on the amendment? Okay, this is just on the amendment. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. The amendment is approved. Okay, back to the original budget appropriations. Any other discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Oh, go ahead.
I did have a couple questions, but I suppose I can get them answered after. I don't know if we can go back to asking questions after the vote's been called.
Isn't finalized yet. Hasn't finalized. We can, friendly, we're okay. We're good. Go ahead.
Okay, fair enough. Appreciate it.
We need a whole.
I guess the first item would have been just the difference in tax levy from this year to last year. I think it was somewhere around 8% of a difference. Was that mostly new construction? Is that additional debt service or some sort of mixture of the two or something else that was the source behind the increase in the levy?
There are a few reasons for the change. One of them being we did have another TID closure during 2024. So we had one additional TID closure, so that allowed us to increase the levy. There is a bit additional to the debt levy as well, but then also net new construction. So there's a few different aspects, but I can go into more detail if you would like me to.
That works for me at this time. Thank you very much. And just one other question from my end on budget. It was...
Go ahead.
Licenses and permits had a pretty good jump, 13.2-ish million from 1 million the year before. Was that revenue that was just moved from a different category?
I can speak to that as well, and I can also defer to Diane if she has additional information. But we actually looked at the upcoming projects that we are anticipating for 2025, which between the housing projects and all the additional building that is expected throughout the TIDs, that is the additional permit revenue. We did take a discount on that so that in case there is a delay in any of those projects, we're not going to get hit with a deficit through the year, but we do have a good factor. Diane and her staff went through the anticipated projects, came up with each permit cost, and then again, we discounted that to make sure that we were a bit more conservative with that estimate.
Thank you.
Any other questions, or?
We'll leave it there for now. The rest are probably for my own personal curiosity and not necessarily needed at the public meeting.
All right.
We all thank you.
All right. Does anyone else have any other comments, questions? Okay. We will call the vote then. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Chair votes aye. That is moving forward to, okay, number 6, RO number 72-2425 by City Plan Commission, to whom was referred RO number 66-2425 by City Administrator Casey Bradley, submitting capital improvements requests for the years 2025 through 2029. Does anyone else have any discussion, any questions on this? Go, oh, sorry.
I'd just like to take an opportunity to learn a little bit. What's the high level process of of deciding how capital works?
So kind of a hybrid process this year, and then moving forward into next year, it'll be more based on asset replacement cycles, looking at total life of assets. So we took last year's capital plan and then made some modifications based on what's known and what's anticipated, and then worked with departments to go through, and each department proposed what they were looking at. A lot of them do have tweaks to their plans, and we work through that. You know, like as we kind of talked about, one of the items on this evening's agenda was some modifications or changes for dump trucks. You know, we're working with and working towards getting more brine instead of just rock salt. So things like that, working through and discussing. Some things do get kicked out. Some things do get added in. We had a few items that got it added, and looked at kind of shifting some things to different years. So it's a pretty long process.
Can I follow up?
Go ahead.
So when things get kicked out or added, who's making those decisions, and is anyone in council part of that?
Nope, so we generally will talk with the departments. If anything changes from prior year plans, then that gets presented to council. But if it's things of moving it from one year into another, generally, I mean, you get the overall plan, so you'll see those changes, but not necessarily, I mean, there's several hundred items that we're going through, so, you know, we try to give you guys the summary and you're able to see all the detail's all here, but just kind of a real generalization of why we've kind of presented it the way we've presented it to make the budget work. You know, and then we work with the departments to make sure they're, you know, at least somewhat satisfied. I know not everybody's going to get what they want, but trying to manage the expectations so you don't have departments pitted against one another, but trying to, maybe you're going to do more projects in this department and next year you'll do other, and, you know, grants really kind of drive, if one department got a lot of grants, we've got to have our match, so that may have effect, and then the next year we may look at doing more in another department and bringing that match back. So,
that makes sense. Thank you.
yes.
Alder Ballinger.
Thank you. I've got a couple questions. I met with Caitlin this evening before the meeting and kind of got some of these answered, but for the sake from hearing from you, Administrator Bradley, what are other borrowed funds under revenues?
Other borrowed, Caitlin can explain that one better than I can.
Okay.
Thank you. So under other borrowed funds, it is debt issuance related to the TIDs. So the GO borrowed funds, those are going to come from tax levy dollars, and the other borrowed funds are going to come from TID increment or additional value within those TIDs. So the intent is that the projects that occur within the tax increment districts are funded by the projects that occur in those districts.
Thank you. And then I kind of went over this with Caitlin too, but I think it would be good for the rest of the council to understand this. Under donations, all of a sudden in 2028, there shows up at $745,000, and every other year there's no donation. And I just found that curious, that how are we anticipating a donation in 2028 of that amount?
I can answer that as well. The project that is slated for 2028 is actually related to Uptown Social Phase 3 construction. It is, I would say, a placeholder at this point in time. There is a desire by, of course, Uptown Social members to have that Phase 3 build out. However, it has been the recommendation of, I will say, some council members and also administrators to have that funded via donations. So my understanding is that if the construction were to move forward in the future, it would be dependent on the donations.
Thank you. And then my last question is maybe for Kevin. I went over this again with Caitlin, but benchmark modernization for streets. Can you explain what that is?
Let's see. This is engineer. Oh, there we go. Okay.
So the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration is updating their base mapping of the world, and trying not to get too technical on this one because I don't even fully understand it. They're creating a new benchmark elevation for how the world is measured elevation-wise. And once that's instituted, we need to update all our benchmarks and build our system to match theirs.
And is this software? What is this expenditure for then?
This would be field work, sending out surveyors, placing new benchmarks, doing work in the field, comparing it to the model that is provided to us.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
That's it.
Okay. Anyone else? Oh, Alder Mitchell.
Thank you, Chair. There was an item in there for the municipal service building. In the draft of the capital improvements plan that's on the website, in the justification section, it mentions that there was a study done to identify the cost to maintain that building and forecast future needs. Mentions that ultimately a decision will be needed on the long-term building needs, and that the study indicated a new combined service center for DPW and transit would be the most cost-effective. If a new combined center is going to be the most cost-effective, is that what these projects are ultimately going to be working toward, or are we putting money into this building and something that should last for a decent amount of time, like the roof, but it's still on the table that everything gets moved in the future?
That is a decision for council. The proposal that is before you tonight is to ultimately replace the roof because it's leaking. Ideally, this would be a 20-year roof. Do you really get that out of that? Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't, but the proposal is to fix the immediate need now. Obviously, a combined facility would be substantially more expensive. I know we heard the proposal of putting solar voltaics on there and things like that. That would actually require shoring up the roof, putting more structure in, hiring an architect, and going to that full extent of redesigning the roof system to support that, which would be substantially more. This is a very expensive roof as it stands now, and we're just looking at trying to maintain it, and that buys us another 10 to 15 years to ultimately figure out the long-term solution. And if something in the meantime, if council decides they want to look at a new facility or a combined facility, we can take the existing facility into consideration, whether we're going to renovate it or expand it or build something new. But we did have that conversation during the budget process, and this is clearly an immediate need that we need to protect our assets. It's been a known need for several years, and it's kind of been put off, and we're kind of at a point we need to fix it to maintain the asset that we have. So we focused on fixing it and then going through, and I know that study was done a few years ago, whether it's something that needs to be redone or different approaches taken to it, I don't know, but that's a discussion that we'll need to have going forward. We're not in a position to make a decision on, do we build a whole new Department of Public Works and combine other departments into that, or do we reevaluate that and make that decision in the future?
Sure, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that reevaluation is not going to happen in the next year or two, and we move forward on that project after just having spent this much on what should have been a long-term roof.
And it'll definitely, whatever we're spending now will be included into that decision process.
Sure.
Yep.
I believe Director Krieger's got something.
Yes, I just wanted to add to Administrator Bradley's point. If you look at the listing of the potential projects that are considered as part of the future of this CIP project in particular, there is a vehicle wash facility, for example. In 2027, it is a $5.5 million expense, and if there was consideration from council to potentially not look at that facility to be housed how it is, that would be an expense that could be reallocated to a different portion of that project. In addition, Mike Wilmus is currently going through another analysis of all of our buildings, and I think we will get even more up-to-date and better answers through that process as well to share with council.
Thank you.
Follow-ups, or you're all?
I will keep it to one other with a comment right after.
Okay, you're good.
Looking at the development projects, so we have, I think it's TIDS 18, 21, 22, and 23 have projects scheduled for 2025. Looking at about a total of 35.1 million being borrowed for those projects, or going toward those projects, the majority of which is being borrowed. Is there a certain amount that's built into that amount being borrowed to be available for debt payments in those first few years as projects are getting off the ground and haven't gotten to the point where they're generating the revenue to make the debt service?
Yes, we would look at the development agreements, what stage each development project is in. So obviously, like TID 21 Commerce Street, we've had some outlays there. We would look at capitalized interest. So it would be interest only for the first year or two, and then we have that matched into the development schedule for the project to make sure that we have the proceeds to cover that. And like TID 21, in looking at what our debt repayment schedule is going to be, we've got some projects that we have no project costs that'll be related to. It's just strictly an incentive. So we've kind of factored that into the projects that have debt. So we have a good understanding of what that cost is going to look like, but we still do that capitalized interest up front to make sure that we have sufficient funds to pay that until the increment is there to catch up.
Thank you. Then if I may have one final follow-up, this one will be short.
Okay.
I can't help but note that I think I saw sculptures with lights on them for over $500,000 on the docket for 2028. no idea if I will be around then, just in case I'm not. I'd like to be on the record now that that is not a project that I'm sure I see the value of over $500,000 of. Thank you.
Alrighty. Any other comments? I guess then we would be looking for a motion. Sorry, John.
In my discussion with Caitlin earlier this evening too, she mentioned, Administrator Bradley, that you are going to do a presentation to the council regarding debt and the different types of debt and basically your philosophy on things. And I just wanted to make you aware that I'm anxiously looking forward to that. Debt is a concern of mine as well, and in how it's handled by the city. And I think the way it's being handled right now, it's being done in a very responsible manner. But I think it is something that would be interesting to have a more in-depth discussion of in the future. So I look forward to that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or? Okay, I guess then I would be now looking for a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. We are moving that forward. Next scheduled meeting date is to be determined. Looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Are on the ballot in the correct municipalities and wards and precincts. So there is a little bit of a difference, especially compared to other states across the country.
Marathon County is also considering additional security measures aimed to protect election officials. The county board is voting tomorrow on updating its disorderly conduct ordinance, creating stiffer penalties.
Election officials have always been covered under our disorderly conduct ordinance, but I just wanted it to be a little bit stronger, I guess, have some stronger penalties for any of that conduct that might be directed towards an election official, just to put everybody on notice that, hey, our election officials are incredibly important people. They serve a very important role in our elections and in our democracy, and we just want to make sure that they feel safe, that they feel protected, to know that our district attorney and our law enforcement are not going to look kindly at all on any negative harassment, any threats, anything like that that might be directed towards an election official.
Have there been instances of harassment or threats to clerks in the most recent elections?
I think it depends on what your definition of harassment or threats are. Of course, you have people who may want to just mouth off and make obnoxious comments about elections. Not really any threatening behavior, so to speak. Some people will show up at the polls and maybe make some of those off-the-cuff comments that they don't think about. So you may have a voter walk into a polling place and just start mouthing off to an election official, asking why they need to show their photo ID, or making comments about, well, I hope you're only allowing citizens to vote, things like that. We have had some instances of clerks getting some phone calls, asking some kind of obnoxious questions. This is more of a proactive response, I guess, rather than a reactive response. We just want everyone to know that here in Marathon County, we take our election officials' responsibilities, and as people, we take them very seriously, and we're going to stand up for them and protect them.
Would this ordinance be clear on when a person crosses the line, when they are out of bounds?
The ordinance really follows what our disorderly conduct guidelines are. And even in our committee meetings and some of the discussions surrounding this ordinance, I don't know that there's a whole lot of clarity as to what is disorderly conduct. I think that would probably be left up to law enforcement and the district attorney. But if nothing else, it puts the people on notice that, hey, Marathon County's taking this seriously, and we're not going to tolerate any kinds of actions or perceived actions towards election officials that might be negative.
You're encouraging people to come observe different phases of administering the election. Can you talk about why you're doing that and what that looks like?
Absolutely. I think over the last couple of years, there's been a lot of misinformation, disinformation surrounding election processes. And I think a lot of people have said that we are operating in secret and we are working behind closed doors and we don't have transparency in our election processes. Nothing could be further from the truth, and we want people to see what we're doing. Come to the polls, observe the process, watch people as they register to vote. Stay at the end of the night after the polls close and watch that process in place as the votes are counted and the results are sent to the county. Come to the county when the clerks bring their election materials back on election night. Watch us get everything checked in. And as we're posting results on the website, all of that process is open to the public, and we are fully transparent in everything that we do, and we want people to not have any questions about what we're doing.
Do you think people will take you up on that? Do you anticipate having more election observers?
I anticipate having a lot of observers at the polls, absolutely. I know both political parties are working really hard to staff the polling places with observers, and I hope we have people take us up on that. I think that's the only way that the word will spread that, hey, our elections in Wisconsin are secure and that we function with the highest level of integrity, and we want everybody to have confidence in our elections.
A little more about you, Kim. How many years have you been county clerk, and what do you love about the job?
Oh, my goodness. There's nothing I don't love about this job. I love everything. I was appointed to this position in 2019, and then I was elected again in 2020, and of course I'm on the ballot again this year. I have been working in this office since 2011 in elections, and I love it. I love the challenge of figuring things out. I love helping people, and I just love the process that is involved in making sure that everyone can cast their ballot.
Kim, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Now we head west from Marathon to Trempealeau County, where Paul Severson is in his 36th and final year as clerk. Severson has some